Hi, today we're going to build a Pong game. First thing I'll do after I hit File New or Create New Project is title the game. And that ensures that it will be saved under that title as I move forward. Okay, go ahead and delete the default cat sprite. Mouse over, choose a sprite. Choose the paintbrush tool, and we're going to paint a rectangle. So click the square tool. Blue is fine. And draw it towards the bottom of our screen. And then in the workspace, just drag it. It's not quite hitting the edges. Okay, so that's it for what we're going to call the kill zone. So in the sprite field above the sprite, just type kill zone. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and choose another sprite, choose paint again, and we're going to build the paddle. So the paddle is going to be similar but much shorter. And the shorter you make that, the harder your game's going to be. Okay, so we're going to call this one paddle. So mouse over the existing sprite name and type the word paddle. Then you can drag it to where you want it to start. Okay, we'll just hover it a little bit above the kill zone. Okay, so now go to code and make sure the paddle is selected in the sprite area. And you want to start coding with when sprite clicked, go to motion and choose go to XY. I've already dragged it to where I want it to start, so I don't need to change those numbers there. It's always going to start where it's appearing now. And the paddle just needs to move left when the left arrow is pressed and right when the right arrow is pressed. So the easiest, smoothest way to do that in Scratch is click Control and choose Forever and put one if-then inside there. We'll test that the left arrow key code works, and if it does, then we'll duplicate it. So inside the if-then, you'll click on Sensing and choose Key Pressed. Okay, change the key press to left. And if the left arrow key is pressed, we want X to change by -10, not 10. 10 will actually move X right, and we want to move X left. So we do that with a -10. And then if we can hit play or green flag, we can test that it works. Okay, so the left arrow is moving the paddle left. So we can duplicate that by right-clicking the if left arrow press block and selecting duplicate. Then we move the duplicated copy below the existing copy and change the left arrow to right arrow and change X to 10. And this will change the direction X moves in. Okay, so you have your kill zone and your paddle completed. We can move on to create the last sprite, which will be the sprite with the most code. So again, mouse over, choose a sprite, and we're going to draw a circle. That's going to be our ball. We're not going to fill it. It's going to be white. And the outline, let me make this a little bit bigger, maybe 4. Okay, and then draw your circle. That's going to be the ball. It's a little big, but let's change that later. Now what I'm going to do is paint a face inside the ball. And I'll just use a blue color for the eyes and the mouth. All right. Now I'm going to mouse over the costume 1 on the left side of your workspace and duplicate that. I'm going to actually change the smile to a frown. So select your pointer and click on the smile, delete that, go to your paintbrush again, and draw a frown. All right, so there is the ball and its costumes. While I'm here, I'm actually going to paint a backdrop to show game over. So game over should appear when the sad face appears. Okay, so I will just choose the text tool, and I can change the text to handwriting or marker, whatever you like. Click inside the drawing tool and show the message game over. Okay, I can change the color, different things. I can add other icons if I want. So now I have 2 screens and I can go ahead and get started coding. So you want to select the sprite for the ball and go to events, and we're going to start with the code for the ball. So one flag clicked, I'm going to actually point in direction 45. That's just going to make the ball look more interesting. And then I'll choose the forever tool. And I'll go back to motion and choose if on edge bounce. So you'll just scroll down a little bit to find that. If on edge bounce. And not only does it bounce, but it has to move. So the ball is going to move 10 steps once it hits an edge forever. So the bigger this number is, the faster your ball will move. Okay, so next I'm going to add code for when the ball touches the paddle. So I'm going to do that in a new block section. One flag clicked. Under the one flag clicked, you will have to sense that the paddle is touched by the ball. So in the control block section, drag out a forever and an if then. Within the if then, we're going to check that the paddle is touched by the ball. So click on the sensing circle, drag the if touching, and change that to paddle. We'll do the kill zone later. So if touching paddle, what we want to do is we want to add a fun sound. So click on sounds, which is next to code and costumes at the top of the left side of the screen, and click new here. I'm going to choose a sound called a water drop, and you can mouse over a sound, the arrow I mean, to check what it sounds like, and then click the sound itself to add it to your editor. And while you're here, choose another sound and type in B-O-N-K. And that's going to play when the paddle is chosen. I mean when the hit zone, the kill zone is hit. Feel free to choose different sounds to make this your own. Okay, so now that I have the sounds, I can go back to the code and I can play the water drop when the paddle is touched. So let me start sound water drop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the ball. Now, I don't want to do it 15 degrees always. I can, but that's not as much fun. So I'm going to turn a random number of degrees. So let's just make that between 120 and 200. You can change this later if you don't like it. Just play with the numbers. Okay, so I'm going to test it. Seems okay when the paddle's touched. So now I have to add code to detect when the kill zone is touched. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the game so it's not too distracting. And I'm going to add my last block of code. So that starts with one flag clicked. Now, I'm always going to start with my ball smiling. It's going to be smiling with switch costume to costume 1, which is the smiley. And I'm going to switch the backdrop to backdrop 1. And another thing I want to do is always start the ball in the upper left corner of the screen. It's a little bit big. I'm going to change the 100 in the size field to 75. Which looks a little better. And you can make it smaller if you want your game to be harder. Okay, so I like the position and I want the ball to always start there. So I drag motion, go to XY block. So it's already set to where I had dragged the ball. So now it's always going to start there. And then I need another sensing block to detect what happens when the ball hits the kill zone. So forever, if then. And inside there, I go to sensing. And I'm going to drag if touching mouse pointer, but change the mouse pointer to kill zone. Okay, now we're almost done. We have to figure out, or we have to tell the program what should happen when the kill zone's hit. So 3 things really. I need to change the looks. The costume should be a frown face, which is costume 2, right? Started with costume 1, which is the smiley. And then the game over backdrop should be showing, which is backdrop 2. And I want to play a sound, which is bonk until done. And then lastly, I want to make sure that the ball stops bouncing. So to do that, I go to control and I select the stop all block. Okay, and then I can test my game and make sure everything's working. Today you learned how to detect movement and collision and change sounds, costumes, and backdrops. Please follow, like, and subscribe for more.